in this case fentanyl. He says it's a similar approach to vaccines he and others have worked on in the past to combat cocaine and methamphetamine. He says his current effort on the fentanyl vaccine is probably 12 to 18 months away from being ready for human clinical trials. Dr. Hale joins me to talk more about this, and let's start with how this actually works. Does the vaccine stop fentanyl users from feeling the effects of the drug and also protect against potential damage from it?
Yes, so you develop antibodies against fentanyl. So when an individual consumes the drug, those antibodies bind to fentanyl and prevent it from getting into the brain, to where in an unvaccinated individual, they would feel euphoria and possibly feel respiratory depression and the development of fentanyl overdose. In a vaccinated individual, those effects are prevented. The antibodies bind to fentanyl, prevent it from getting into the brain, and then allow it to exit the body with no effects.
Wow.
Does this kind of vaccine work in the same way as vaccines for example, chickenpox or the flu or COVID or anything like that?
Yes, in a way. We induce the body to produce antibodies. That's common with all vaccines, but our vaccine produces antibodies against a chemical and not a bacteria or virus.
So assuming that this at some point down the road gets FDA approval, how big of a dent do you think it could potentially put in the overall crisis that this country is dealing with fentanyl?
Huge dent. Medications that we have now are not working. Though we have maintenance therapies such as buprenorphine, methadone, and naltrexone. And then we have, of course, the rescue therapy, naloxone. However, the overdose reversal agent, naloxone, you have to get a lot of it to reverse the fentanyl overdose. The reason is the way the fentanyl molecule binds to receptors in your brain. It binds very tightly. So it takes a lot of naloxone to reverse that. So what we have is not working. The situation is getting worse, and we need a different treatment strategy. And we believe that the vaccine is going to be an efficacious strategy. The question is why? Well, in this population, individuals that want to quit usually are those that have entered a detox facility and then have been put on a maintenance medication. We would also add the fentanyl vaccine with the maintenance therapy. Now, as is known in the field, it's not if these individuals will relapse, it's when they will relapse. So they usually quit their medication, become non-compliant, and then start using drug again. And if this individual is vaccinated, they cannot remove the antibodies. So if they take the drug, they will feel no effects. And this will help them get back on the wagon to sobriety, so to speak.
So the thinking then is that if the drug doesn't have the quote-unquote desired effect for the user, they won't see the point in taking it and they'll go back to not using it.
This will give them a chance. And again, this will be for individuals that really want to quit. And 80 to 90% of this population do eventually relapse. And this will help them prevent relapse. It also will help them from overdosing and potentially dying.
Do you have a sense yet in terms of for how long the vaccine will be effective?
This is a good question. And it's an important question. Right now, we've done experiments in mice and rats, and one of our rat studies, we showed complete blockade of fentanyl's effects about 6 months after the initial vaccination. 6 months is a long time for a rat. Now, to test the durability of the vaccine, we would need to do that, of course, in humans. And we could probably accomplish that in the phase 1 clinical trial. At the very least, we could look at it to see what levels are a year out.
I want to ask you about the concept of vaccine hesitancy, which there's always been some amount of it, but we've especially seen it in the last few years as it relates to COVID. Do you think that there might be any kind of negative impact on this kind of vaccine of people who are just maybe nervous about getting vaccines in general?
The way that I would address that is to ensure the individual that this is not new technology, like the mRNA vaccines. That's new technology. We're using technology that has been proven, and it's safe, and it's effective with other vaccines. And the population we're going to be addressing are individuals that need help, and the vaccine probably is their only help. And I can support that statement by I usually get at least 1 or 2 emails from parents whose children or young adults have been battling, fentanyl addiction for years and have tried everything, and they want something else. They want something. They need something. They need hope, and the vaccine will be hope. There are other applications of the vaccine. We have found fentanyl in cocaine and methamphetamine, in counterfeit ADHD medications, and counterfeit anxiety medications, and other drugs, even marijuana. And so I've been approached multiple times by parents, again, to see if they could get their kids to get the vaccine because they're absolutely terrified of their child being accidentally poisoned while experimenting with other drugs. And so I was kind of resistant against this application, but then, the bottom line, it comes down to saving lives. And if we can save lives, then I'm all for it. So that you could think of that as a prophylactic use of the vaccine. And then we have individuals such as first responders. We've had a few instances here in Texas where police have, examined crime scenes, and then they had gloves on. They examined crime scenes and accidentally touched their face, their eye, or their nose, and then overdosed on fentanyl.
Oh, my God.
Fortunately, they did not die. And then we have other individuals that work here on the border in Texas that encounter fentanyl every day. And so there's other applications of the vaccine as a protective agent and a prophylactic agent.
All right, that is Dr. Colin Hale, Research Associate Professor at the University of Houston. Dr. Hale, thanks for your insights. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.